Excuse me, brothers. I'm just checking to see if my sound is on, and then we'll get started. Can you brothers hear me? We on. All right. Hey, Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the others that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's keeping his word, and sincerity and truth. I wanted to come with a sit down going into who the Pharisees are. And the Pharisees, okay, cool, just double checking. And the Pharisees actually came out of the Hasmonean dynasty. Now, the Hasmonean dynasty was an empire that was established by the Maccabean family. And I'll be using this study Bible as a source. And also, of course, the internet. I have a couple other tools I would like to pull out just to drive in the home of where the idea of who the Pharisees are. As I was saying, the Pharisees came out of the Hasmonean dynasty, which was established by the Maccabean family. After the Maccabean rebellion, um, the family was able to make pacts with certain kingdoms, in particular the kingdom of the Seleucid Empire or the Syrian Empire, and they were able to not only expand the territory during that reign, particularly after the Antiochus the seventh chapter, the seventh verse, the seventh, excuse me, and and really be able to hold on to their religious ideas, which is of course the scriptures. But as Jake began to do too much. What I mean by that is with the Pharisees, they began to add on certain laws, and also he had different sects like the Sadducees. They were actually very Hellenistic. So I wanted to go and just read a little bit of the Hasmonean dynasty, and also just skip around in this book and really just driving the home of who the Pharisees are. So this is the Hasmonean dynasty. I'm on page 1344, and it goes into the Hasmoneans. The Syrian recognized the government of John Hyrcanus on conditions that he considered himself subject to Syria, and promised help in Syrian military campaign. Certain coastal cities were annexed by Jonathan and Simon were also to be relinquished. The effective rule of Hyrcanus, however, quickly affected the reconquer of these cities and the addition of the Idumeans, the Old Testament Edomites, to Judean territory. These conquests ensured the use of ancient trade routes by the merchant class, but they posed problems to religiously oriented Jews. Hyrcanus compelled the Idumeans to become circumcised and accept the Jewish faith, a practice that later Judaism disallowed. Um, with the conquering of Idumea, that's where you get the family of Herod the Great. He was known as King of the Jews. Well, the reason why is because you had Hyrcanus. He took over that region, um, that region of Idumea, and he forced them to basically become Jews. Or practice Judaism, for lack of a better term. Now, as you can see, the Hasmonean dynasty, they allowed to practice religious freedom for the most part. within that you had people or sects of Jews that um, embrace Hellenism, and a prime example is the Seleucid Empire. I mean, the Sadducees. They were very accepting, about the Greek culture, if you will. I'm going to skip down. It says, before John Cranus died in 104 BC, the borders of the state had been extended on every side. The Maccabean struggle was long past, and new rivals developed. The older Hellenists were discredited, but their ideas were perpetuated in the party of the Sadducees. Now, the Sadducees, if you do research on them, they didn't believe in the resurrection, and they actually were trying to cut Yahweh Shah on that point. And also, they didn't believe in punishment after death. You know, so they didn't believe in reincarnation or resurrection, and they didn't believe in punishment after death. But they did believe in Sha'al, which the concept of Sha'al was the same concept of Hades. You know, they didn't believe in uh, evil spirits, angels, and things of that nature. So there was, this sect was very Hellenized, and this Jewish sect was the sect of aristocrats and people that were higher up. They were known for doing the rituals of the temple, for Israel, but just for edification, let's see here. What I wanted to bring out. Oh, yes, I remember now. I wanted to bring out them trying to cut. I was trying just to illustrate what I was going into. Cut this hat. See. See, there you go. Give me 2 seconds, but as I'm looking for what we're going into, and that's supposed to be you there, verses. All right. Let me get this for y'all. Be patient. Warming up. Pulling this out. Because if you look this up, what I'm looking for, it's like it's taking so long. Why dang, our computer is running slow. Like, I just pull up in my scriptures. What I'm looking up is the time that the Sadducees challenged Yahweh Shah on reincarnation or resurrection. Okay, so Matthew 22 and verse 23. Here we go. Matthew 22 and 23. The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die, have no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren, and the first, who, when he had married a wife, deceased, and having no issue or child, left his wife without unto his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third unto the seventh. And all of the women, and all And last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the seven? For they all had heard. He also answered and said unto them, Ye do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of the Most High. For in the resurrection they neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels in heaven. So when they are in the spirit world, the spirits, they don't marry, things of that nature. But again, you have to, they come two ways, because the Sadducees didn't believe in in the spirit world. They didn't believe in that they believed in nothing. You see, uh, let's see. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by the Most High, saying, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitude heard this, they were astonished at his doctrine. So he cut them, with that understanding. You see, because when you come back, you're gonna have a whole new body, a whole new shell. You're not the same person. The spirit is saved, but you're not the same person that you were, in a past life, man. The Most High gives you a whole different life, and the Sadducees didn't believe that. But just go back to the main topic. So I wanted to also, brother, GMS desiring truth. Just going back to the main topic, you had the Pharisees, and the Pharisees were very stringent when it came to keeping the law. To the point to where they actually added oral law to the written law, and they said that the oral law that they believed in was passed down from the time to Moses, to the second building of the temple. You see, so they had these written codes or written laws that they made up, just to ensure that the written law was being kept, which caused strife between them and also the Sadducees. Because remember, the Sadducees were very liberal, for lack of a better term, versus the Pharisees were known to be very, very conservative when keeping the law, man. Because you actually had people who were from the Maccabean family that actually became Hellenistic. You see, which we're going to read. So going back to what we was reading again, I'm reading out of the King James Study Bible. I'm in the Hasmonean dynasty. Okay, so let me read down. It says, again, I'll start from the top. Before John Hyrcanus died in 104 BC, the borders of the state had been extended on every side. What the state that is going into Judea. You see, under Hyrcanus, we were able to expand. You see, it says, let's see, the Maccabean struggle was long past and new rivalries developed. The older Hellenists were discredited, but their ideas were perpetuated in the party of the Sadducees, which we just brought out. The Orthodox of Maccabean times became the Pharisees of pre-Christian Judaism, and the New Testament. Hyrcanus was devout and law abiding, but his children had little sympathy with traditional Hebrew thought. They numbered themselves also among the aristocrats, and they came to look with disdain on the rigid Orthodox Pharisees. Ironically, these heirs of the Maccabees became thoroughly Hellenized. So you had, family members of the Maccabeans. They became extremely Hellenized, and a beautiful point is there, which we're not going to get. But I don't want to digress too much is the son of uh, of John Cramus, which his name is Aristobulus, and he had his brothers and even mother killed, trying to obtain that crown, in which he was the first person or high priest to call himself a king. You see, but his reign was very long, be short lived. Excuse me. I think, reigned for about a year, and he died due to bad habits. The Most High took him out. You see, but you always had warring in between these two sects, you know, and these different aristocrat parties of the Jews that were constantly fighting for power, alluding back to who the Sadducees and the Pharisees. You see what I'm saying? So now let's jump to the Pharisees, and again I'm in the King James Study Bible. I'm in the section that says between the testaments on page 1346. As I said, now we're reading in the Pharisees. It's a small insert on who the Pharisees were. Okay, that says the Pharisees, a party bearing the name Pharisees, it first mentioned during the reign of John Hyrcanus, 134 to 104 BC, and it is evident that even then there was an antagonism. It means there was fight between the Orthodox Pharisees and the more open-minded Sadducees. With the Sadducee again were Hellenized, man. They incorporated Hellenistic customs, you know, in their rituals and in their teaching. If the Pharisee means separate one, and the name probably meant in the first instance one who had separated himself from the corrupting influence of Hellenism in his zeal for the biblical law. Josephus said that the Pharisees appeared more religious than others and seemed to interpret the law more accurately. Pharisees were punctilious and very stringent in observing the law regarding ceremonial purity. For this reason, they could not purchase items of food or drink from the sinner, the fear of ceremonial defilement. And ceremonial defilement, that was an oral law that they, made, basically just made up, infused in their teaching. And that, oral law, which has nothing to do with the scriptures, this is called Tuma. Now, the correct way of saying it in the Paleo Hebrew is Daramaya, or Dahara, pronounced, which I just pronounced, or the state in Jewish law, and that's the latter two words that I say, which basically means impure. I'm gonna get it out. Or the state of being ritually impure or pure, respectively. The Hebrew noun dama, meaning impurity, or dara mara, describes a state of ritual impurity, a person or object which contracts darama is said to be the mind, ritually impure, thereby unsuitable for certain holy activities and utilizations until undergoing predefined purification actions that usually included the elapse of a specific time period. The contrasting Hebrew noun dahara describes a state of ritual purity that qualifies the dahara, a ritual, pure personal object to be used for kadasha, the most the most common method of achieving uh, purity is by the personal object being immersed in a ritual bath. This concept in connecting with ritual washing Judaism and both ritual impure and ritual pure states have parallels in ritual purification in other world religions. The law of Daruma and Dahara were generally followed by the Israelites, particularly during the first and second time temple build period, and to a limited extent are a part of a applicable halakya in modern times. So you had people that were adding on to the word of God with these rituals that had nothing to do um, with the law that was written, in the scriptures. And they were doing this to achieve purification, But within them doing it, they were being unrighteous. The two Pharisees, they were being unrighteous, and a lot of times they were breaking the actual law with their oral law, or their traditions that were made by man. Okay, and just to prove that, I actually know exactly where it's at. Boom. Now let's go to Matthew 15:1. Then came to Yahushua's scribes and Pharisees, which were Jerusalem, saying, uh, "Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread." And this is going into what we just brought out, those laws of purification that they arbitrarily made up. They didn't have anything to do with the scriptures. They were making laws on top of laws, man. Trying to maintain within them, trying to maintain the Jewish tradition. They became very, very self-righteous. You see, because they were doing things, they really didn't have anything to do with the law, But let's keep, I wanted to read this commentary too. This commentary is very, very good. Let's see here. Matthew 5:15-1. Apparently, the central religious leaders came to investigate the ministry and teaching of the tradition of elders. Many Jews and of the Lord's time believed that in addition to the written law of Moses, there was an oral law given to Moses in Sinai. This oral law, they believed, was passed down from Moses by word of mouth until it reached the great synagogue or council of leaders, which succeeded Ezra after the return from the exile. These this council seemed to have been the source of many additions to the law of the Most High that have been found in Judaism, ancient and modern. You see that? So the Pharisees were adding on to the word of God. You see, and brother GMS desiring truth, brought out Ecclesiastes 12:12, and further by these, my son, be astonished of making me books. There is no and study is the weariness of the flesh. And you can liken that unto the Pharisees. You see, because they were trying so hard to be righteous, man, that they were really destroying themselves, because they within their self-righteousness, they couldn't understand the freedom that was in Yahushua. You see, they were trying to build their own righteousness. You know what I'm saying? Let's go back to the scriptures. Back in Matthew 15:1. Then came to Yahusha scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do the disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But ye answered and said unto them, Why? But he answered and said unto them, Salaki, why do ye also transgress the commandment of the Most High by your traditions? For the Most High commanded, saying, Honor thy father and thy mother, and ye that curseth father or mother, let him die to death. But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or mother, it is a gift by whosoever thou mightest be profited by me. And that word gift, when you go to Matthew 7:5, it brings out the word korban, and that's an old tradition that these Pharisees would keep. And we're going to read about it. Let's go ahead and dive into it. Mark 7:5. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, which we just read, we'll read it again. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, hath Elijah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines of the commandments of man. For laying aside the commandment of the Most High, ye hold the tradition of man, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of the Most High, that ye may keep your traditions. For Moses said, Honor thy father and thy mother, and whosoever curseth father or mother, let him die to death. But ye say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is korban, that this is to say a gift, but whosoever thou mayest be profited by me, he shall be free. Now, let's go to korban. Now, this is what the Pharisees believe. Jews could evade responsibility to man by declaring their subjects called korban, devoted to God. And if you look up that korban, that was something that was very, very stringent. If you put that money aside for Yahweh by Yahushua, there was nothing. You couldn't break that oath, not even when it came to giving to your parents. You see, so a lot of times they would use this term korban as a means to do what? To exclude from taking care of their parents, which is a clear violation of the scriptures. See, with the adding of the law, which the scriptures tell you not to, you see, they were able to. They were the law of Yahweh by Yahushua. And Yahushua, as you see, he just cut him there, man. He cut him. You see. So, and also they didn't understand the severity of Yahushua. See, leave it up to man. My scripture, leave it up to man. Man are going to go off, man. It's in our nature. You see, that's why we need a redeemer. That's why we needed Yahushua. You see, because he knew that we weren't able to hold fast to the law. You see what I'm saying? You had people out there. That's beautiful, brother. I was just looking for the scripture. You have people out there that were adding on to the law and being self-righteous, and holding the tradition of man, and were going off. GMS desiring truth, desiring truth. Revelations 22:18. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written. And that's what was going on, man. That's why AD happened. That's why 70 AD happened. Because our people were falling after these laws and these tradition of man that had nothing to do with the scriptures. And then when the person who would give us this, uh, 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 our people didn't want to listen to it. Our people prefer these wise fables that was in that was passed down. Which the scriptures tell us to not adhere to, and those wild fables that it was going to were these oral traditions, man, that our people passed down. Let's get this. Get this in 1 Timothy for you brothers, man. Matter of fact, I just pull it right here. Now this is 1 Timothy 4:7. But refuse profane and old wise fables, and exercise thyself rather in goodliness, man. You see, these old fables and having to wash your hands and purification and things like that, that's not gonna get us in the kingdom of heaven. What's gonna get us in the kingdom of heaven is ultimately the faith in Yahweh Shah. And the Pharisees, they didn't get that. They didn't understand that. They thought that they could make their own or form their own righteousness. You see, and scripture say we are filthy rags in the Most High sight. There's nothing that we could do, would give us righteousness, man. But now am I saying that we could just utterly just sin and go off? Of course not. Try to follow the law, such as commandments to the best of our ability, of our ability. But even within our best, we don't come close near to the Heavenly Father. But that just shows you that's why the Pharisees were so stringent in following the law, man. Not only did they follow 600 or the over 600 laws that are written in the scriptures, they added on to the law to ensure that they were being righteous. But they're righteous, but even within their righteousness and their logic, they were going off. You see what I'm saying? They were going complete smooth off. So I want to say the point was made. Hopefully you brothers were edified on who the Pharisees are. I want to give all praise to Yahweh Bashim Helpshah, and double honors to the apostles and the elders that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's keeping His word in sincerity, also in truth. Shalom.